I guess I'm doing like an anime topic because I'm kind of bored, but the new kind of Naruto is turning into Dragon Ball. I'm gonna explain why. Because in later Shippuden, right? Kind of late Shippuden shit, people start fucking flying, dropping meteors, planet shit. It's like DBZ at that point. It definitely won't get into the extreme kind of shit because like extreme shit like DBZ does with like people tearing apart galaxies and like destroying universes and shit. But I mean, Naruto was about the story of a demon, like a demon kid, right? Like a kid possessed by a demon, right? You know, that's what it was. Kind of kid possessed by a demon, ninja kid possessed by a demon, right? Just kind of a basic kind of one person story, you know? It's not nothing advanced, you know, just a kid having adventures as a young ninja. Nothing that fucking advanced, right? Then later on, we get to gods and shit. That's the kind of ruins it. It was a basic kind of underdog, simplistic story. That's what it was, a very simplistic story. What ruined it was the advancements and kind of dumb kind of retcons to continue with this narrative. I'm gonna get into all of it later on, but people defend the shit out of the series. They're going on with the Dragon Ball route because what they're doing is, Naruto's finished, but we need an excuse to continue it. Kaguya, yeah, that's the excuse. With DBZ, it was Oob. Because what they do is, the author's like, I don't want to make this shit anymore. I'm just gonna drop it off and be like, yeah, you take over because I don't give a shit anymore. They didn't do that with Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Just said, yeah, I'm done. You guys can do what the fuck you want. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like the original Duel Monsters, that is like the beginning of season 0 to now, like, end. He said, I'm done. You guys can make a fucking sequel if you want. And people are just like, we can make GX to go for the fuck out. I'm done with my manga, right? That was kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! But, the more, like, Toyama and the, what's the guy that makes, no, I don't know his name. Can't think of it on the top of my head. But, the thing is, they kind of had all this story established and all this narrative established, right? From part 1. Part 1 was the basic story of a ninja, kind of, it's like the story of independence and a more kind of story of independence and acceptance, and the underdog story where he holds ground. But Clyde did a great video on this. Was it Clyde? No, it was what was the guy's fucking name? Plague of Gripes. He did a great video on this, and the argument was appeal to emotion fallacy. That it was Seth that did a rebuttal on it. I think it was Seth. He's like, oh yeah, it still holds in part 2. Yeah, keep telling yourself the reincarnation of God. Yeah, Naruto's totally underdog, reincarnation of God, and the son of the fourth village leader. Yeah, he's ruling the underdog. It's definitely hinted at here or there, but they didn't put such emphasis on it. By part 2 with the pain fight, that's when they, not even the pain fight, when he mastered the shuriken, the Rasengan shuriken, whatever it's called. That's when it became a story not about underdogs, not about a story of underdogs, because Kakashi's like, yeah, he's pretty much the best fucking ninja now. And that's pretty much when he said he had his back working towards him. He pictured Minato. That kind of significantly showed, yes, I have surpassed that status, and now I am above. And that's kind of what cemented it for me. Of course. But people like to kind of say, oh, it's based off emotion. Yeah, it was definitely emotion of characterization that is done, but a lot of things don't make sense in sense of characterization for the sake of trying to extrapolate the narrative of being an underdog, like they try to bring up in the video. But that's not what this video is about. It's about how Naruto has synced to what it is now. We get like part 1, the Wind of Waves and shit, where this kind of demon, I think he's known as the Demon of the Mist, right? Zabuza. Best fucking character. Not the best character, but he was just a badass, you know, just kind of evil, kind of sinister. The redeeming side of him wasn't the fact that his girlfriend from 20 years ago was killed by a guy he barely knew. Well, it was redeemed. I'm talking about Obito, if you idiots didn't know. But What was redeeming about him was the fact that he was a fucking horrible person. That might not make sense, but it's the fact that he had some sympathy for someone, and he was such a fucking monster, was what made that kind of showing of him being emotional towards that kind of better, because it was a shock to the audience that they wouldn't expect that type of reaction. It was the shock of that, that such a fucking monster of a person would feel that. Again, like I explained in other videos, I don't believe in the general idea of morality, but it's just from a narrative perspective that it makes such more significance than Obito's story. And that's just an example of Zabuza versus Obito. Another reason why I don't like Raider Shippuden is because it just overemphasizes a lot of characters and just leaves out kind of anyone. Even Shinkamaru and all the other older characters, they can't even have a secret. They can't even have a genetic jutsu, because that's only given to people who have fusion abilities and eye powers. They have to have it be hidden, because at their retcon shit had to be heat-on or hidden abilities, even though in reality they were labeled as fucking Kekkei Genkai, which is pretty much a genetic ability. And the only thing Sharingan wasn't able to copy was genetic ability, so it tied in with that. And no one who has a Sharingan was able to fucking copy those moves, so it ties into that, and it makes sense with the narrative as well. And he's like, oh, maybe it just wasn't worth using, you could say. But then these ninja, they had warring periods. Throughout all of time, there was no person that ever used these jutsu. No one. Right? Just no one used it. That makes no sense, logically. It's the fact that he said, I'm just gonna retcon something in order to benefit what I'm trying to tell. That's what it was. In Raid On, they did this too. They made the Uchiha's ability so fucking great. And they're like, oh yeah, remember when we said the Hyuga was equal? Yeah, we're gonna change that because look at the fucking abilities they have now. So what they do is they have to think of a way to make up powerful characters. So they make, hey, we have to, all our characters are guards, right? We have guard guy and the guard other guy. We're at a point. You know what also makes zero sense? The fact that Hiruzen, the third Hokage, was yeah, I'm the strongest fucking Hokage to exist, right? And he's just throwing shuriken and shit. That was our idea of what the most powerful person was at that time. Throwing shurikens and just soul whipping. That was the powerful shit at that time. But now that later in the series we see people dropping meteors and turning into giant fucking kaiju, it's that doesn't make much sense now that we know the new information. And that's why later on they kind of just say, no. Because later information contradicts previous information. That's why when people say, oh yeah, use statements, because statements don't ever fucking stick in line with what is shown. That is just kind of what happens, because it's more important of showcasing other statements. Because statements don't mean shit in Naruto. They do, but they mean shit because they do. It's they don't. Even in the times part one. Oh, but this was revealed in part 2. Yeah, but still in the time frame of part 1. The leader of the Uchiha, Fugaku, was literally able to control the Nine Tails, and he had a Mangekyo. The Mangekyo is pretty much an advanced Sharingan, and the Sharingan's equal to the Byakugan. From part 1 war, which we know is impossible. The Hyuga could not take on a Nine Tails. That is utterly factual from the series standpoint. So the fact that one could control a Nine Tails just indicates my point. It just indicates that even from part 1 in terms of time scale, they were way less worthless. So the fact that they hyped them up so much makes zero sense. And it's like I said before, they kind of forget previous narratives in part 2 because they have so much shit to juggle. And they can't even give the credit of having a special jutsu for them, because it's no, we can't give that. And it creates plot holes because they have to create these narratives. we're at a point in the series, oh man, these characters are powerful that they're fighting like reincarnations of gods and shit. How about we just make them reincarnations of gods? I just find that retarded. You know? We're at a point where it's not even about ninjas anymore. It's about gods, like planet creating gods and like universes and shit. We're at a point where it's like that. We're at a point where it's about gods now. It's not about ninja, it's about gods. And then what's horrible about the next generation, you know, they did such a horrible thing here in Naruto, in Shippuden and Boruto, which I'm going to explain. You never do this in narrative and writing, and it's horrible. Just fucking horrible, dude. Madara was the strongest shinobi ever to exist. If you know what that means contextually, in terms of writing, you would understand why that's bad. You just made the biggest threat to ever exist right at the beginning of your story. Meaning that you set the limit to your story to what every other next character can be. So you have to make up a reason why the next one exists that is more powerful, because the previous one was stated to be the most powerful. So you have to come up with reasonings to justify B's power, because A was stated to be the most powerful. So you created a restriction on what you write. And also, they also did an intentional thing that eliminates all tension in a story in Boruto, which is like a fake fucking sequel that's not real. It's like licensed and shit, but it's not created by the main creator of it, and it's like fanficky and it's dumb and it's whatever. It's all the signs of like a kind of a sequel that's not really a real sequel. That's just kind of what it is, like Super and GT. It's the signs of what it is. I could debate this more, like if I typed it, but because I'm doing it in vocal format, I kind of have to come up with a response on point. I don't have a script because I don't feel like writing a script because it's too much work. Not that it's too much work. It's not genuine, you know. If I write a script, because it's kind of just I correct all mistakes. I can't make mistakes. It's all just scripted, right? Off topic, but Boruto at the beginning, not the beginning, I think it's like later on, they reveal that he's like 20 or something later on. So we know, by all accounts, Boruto cannot die, so that eliminates all tension towards his character. Because we know he is safe throughout the entire story, and that eliminates all tense feeling that you would get from an action scene. And as this is kind of like an action show, it eliminates all tension. If I'm watching James Bond, I turn James Bond on, right? And it shows a flashback to 20 years later. I know James Bond is not going to die in that movie, because 20 years later, he's still alive. Oh, but it's still interesting to watch. Doesn't matter that it's interesting to watch. It's boring, because I know it's impossible for him to die. I know it's impossible for him to die. That means there's no stakes. I know he's going to win. He can't die. He can't lose, right? Because if he loses, I mean, he can lose, but he can't die. There's no stakes to a fight. It's like, yeah, he's gonna end up fine. I'm not worried. I know he's alive the next 20 years. And these are just intentional mistakes that, the one mistake was made by the real, like, writer and whatnot. The second was just kind of a mistake made by the people that write the anime and manga. Because if you don't know how this shit works, oftentimes it's not. There's the writer for the anime, there's the writer for the manga. It's like same with Super. Anytime they have a main manga series, and it has a sequel that isn't written by the original writer, it has two variants, in an anime and a manga. Super does this too. They have different writers, and I don't know if they do this for the Boruto manga, but the main writer of Super, he writes down 5 or 6 notes. He's like, here, do what you want with it after. I'm not sure if it's like that for that, but from what I see, it's not like that at all. So people just kind of have general concepts and ideas to work with. They kind of write them how they see. That's kind of generally how it works from my knowledge, especially in Boruto. That kind of writing's dumb, and you can see that in the show and whatnot. It just generally doesn't interest me. And from what I've heard about, like, the story, the kid's a whiny brat with no character. It's like, yay. It's not like we don't deal enough whiny brats in society. We have to watch one. Yeah, we watch these shows so we can get away from life, not have to deal with it. And the people and general television and whatnot don't get this. I think people have forgotten a show don't tell mentality. You watch these shows and they will explain everything to you. A lot of the times, when some of the times they're just showing you the exact same shit. Sometimes I think visuals, especially in these, use visuals to tell the story. Having a visual medium allows you to do that. So don't talk when you're showing the thing that we're seeing. Right? So it's kind of pointless. Oh man, he's dropping a meteor. Oh, I can't see that. I can't see that there's a meteor falling. You can definitely increase the drama by saying, "Oh yeah, this is happening." You can show it visually. You don't even need to say it. Like waste dialogue, right? You're wasting extra money by paying these people to, like, act, right? You're paying these people to act when you could just be showing the visual of it. Eliminating the need, not eliminating the need, but eliminating the need to pay that extra line. And you're still having all the tension that comes with the scene with none of the audio, because you're just getting the visual tension. There's times where you can, in shows, I think John Wick's a good example, they say no not to talk. When you're seeing a scene and you're seeing John Wick getting his ass kicked, he's getting stabbed, he's getting brutalized, you don't need him saying, "Ow, ow, this hurts. Oh man, he's getting his ass kicked." When you're watching it, you can just feel it in the fight. You don't need someone saying he's getting hurt. You feel from the visuals that he's getting hurt. If you visualize, you have good choreography in your fights, you have good kind of showings of what's happening, you don't need audio. You're showing what's happening, and you don't need you don't need audio. When you need audio to quantify a fight scene or a tense scene, you aren't doing a good job of your writing, because your audience should understand what's happening, and they should understand what's happening as their viewers of the show. They should understand the context of the narrative and understand the stakes which are happening, and they shouldn't need audio to explain it, because they're the viewers of the show. They should know what's happening, right? Oh, but it happens weekly. That's no excuse. You're watching it weekly, you're waiting a good amount of time, you surely should know what's happening. That's another excuse they try to use. Yeah, it's just show don't tell. People don't do that technique anymore. It's sad. It's good writing when you do that. Not good writing, but it's good. It's better. There's just times where I'd rather just see it being shown, because it's a lot of the times when it's done like that, it's done pretty well. But there's times where you do need dialogue. Not denying that. There's times when you need some good explaining scenes to kind of explain what's going on. That needs to happen in every show. You need some time to sit down and explain what's going on. Because if you have a story with no context, there's no stakes, so you don't care, because you don't care, right? Because there's no context for you to care about. So yeah, definitely you need context to a story. Definitely. But there's times where the visual shows, like I said, the example of this being the moon scene and the entire tournament power arc. Not moon scene, but meteor scene. Visuals should speak louder than, especially in these type of scenes where it's drama, very drama kind of, like just visual drama. The visual should speak louder than the audio. You shouldn't need audio to explain such a tense scene like that. And if you do, it shows that you are lacking in writing, right? Expressions and kind of characterization you should know should obviously tell, right? And if you don't know your characterization of a character, that shows you're doing your character bad, because you can't tell what they are, right? Okay, the worst character in the show by far in Naruto is Sasuke. He doesn't have an arc. His original arc's, I hate my brother and I want to kill him because he murdered my family. Wow, that's a good start. You have a goal, and you have an end. You have what the character wants, and you have what the end result would be. And the end result after that would be he wants to restore his clan. So you have part 1 for his character, part 2, part 3. And then where is the struggle, where is the kind of struggle or kind of the tension. The tension is he has to choose between his life goal or his kind of life, like, like his village life, or kind of his life he's established as a youngster. So he has to choose between that, and that's the struggle that he had in season 1. Season 2 just says, oh yes, Tachi was evil, despite it not making any sense in the narrative. People like, he was a true hero. No, it made 0 sense. Then he becomes a genocidal maniac, and it made 0 sense. He just, like, became 2 seconds, like a few pages, or a few chapters, or a few episodes later, he just all of a sudden becomes a fucking maniac, and it makes 0 sense. But it's like, oh yeah, it's the shock of that. It's like, yeah, it's definitely the shock, but it didn't make any, the idea didn't make any sense. It's like, there's scenes in the show where it's just like, yeah, this didn't make any sense. And in part, like, the way to put it into work, they're just like, yeah, I just kind of want to be, like, the leader of the village now. I just kind of changed arcs on a dime because the writer can't figure out how to write a genocidal maniac as a good person. That's the issue. They couldn't figure out how to write him. They say that with the girl characters, like, I think Sakura was one of them. No. They didn't figure, they had perfect ideas how to write them. They did. They definitely did. They just didn't care to. They didn't at all care to write them write them well. That's what it is. I'm not bitching, I really don't care. A lot of them are fucking worthless anyway. But they didn't care to. That was the answer. Not that they couldn't, it's not that they didn't care to. They didn't care, just like they didn't care. They just kind of cared, and then they just said, oh, I'm gonna fuck off and just make him a genocidal maniac. And then they couldn't figure out how to write that normally. Like, convincingly be a kind of a good guy. So they just said, oh no. We're just doing 100% character shift. And they did the same with Orochimaru. Orochimaru was like this evil, kind of sadistic bastard, kind of cutting sadistic bastard, right? And he's just like, yeah, I'm a good guy now. Why? I just kind of am. It's like, but that makes 0 fucking sense with the characterization established. It doesn't. But that's what part 2 is of Naruto. You just fuck everything. You just say, just fuck it. Hey, what about, like, Choji having, like, borderline abilities? No, fuck that. It's hidden abilities. But then why doesn't Kakashi know it? Because it would make sense that he did, because he's a Sharingan user. Why doesn't anyone know that? They just don't. But why? They just don't. It's because he intended it for it to be borderline ability, but they just kind of said, fuck it, it's not. Because they need to change the narrative as Uchiha's were the big shit. And they hit a point in the story where demigods are pretty much not enough, so they have to have a whole clan full of gods to fight it's not part 3, it's fake part 3. That's what it is. People like to say, oh yeah, Super's part 3, it's fucking not. Let's be real, it's not part 3. There's only 2 parts to Dragon Ball, to Z and Ball, which is part 1 and part 2. Same shit with Naruto. The only parts of Naruto are Shippuden and the original. And all people like, oh, I hate filler. Then why don't you, if you hate filler so much, why don't you just read the manga? If you hate filler so much. Because everyone who complains about it hasn't read the manga, and they just like, oh, I just hate filler. Then why don't you just read the manga? Because it doesn't have filler. People just bitch, and I'm like, yeah, just read it. Just read the manga. Don't bitch. If you hate it so much, don't. Just read the manga. You don't have to be such a lazy bastard. If you don't like it, just read the manga. It's like, God, it's not so hard. Maybe it's just that you're too lazy to fucking read. Is that it? You're too lazy to buy a book and read? Too lazy to buy buy a few comic books and read? Or is it maybe that you're broke? Either or. But it's just really the fact that these people say that this is good writing is retarded. Just my opinion. I think it's, people say this contradictory style of writing is good. As a watcher of the series, it's despicable for people to say this. Part 1 was ingenious, but it was basic and kind of stuck to its premise. Part 2 just said, fuck that premise. We're just gonna do what the fuck we want to do. The beginning of part 1 was great when they had all the Akatsuki members and shit. They were just, the beginning of it was good. It's when they didn't figure out, when they just kind of said they didn't know what they were doing. After that, when all the Akatsuki members died, they were just trying to scramble to find what they were going to do. So they're like, oh man, how about we name this guy who just kind of joined Madara and make him the secret leader? Right? That's honestly what happened. He didn't know what to do after that. After he killed all the Akatsuki members. So he's like, oh yeah, make Madara the secret leader. Make Toby the secret leader and call him Madara. Oh yeah, that's not Madara. It's a guy pretending to be Madara. But it wasn't shocking. Let's be honest, it wasn't that shocking. It was pretty obvious as the second Toby was introduced. It was the episode. Actually, if you check the episode list, I don't think you checked the episode list, but a few episodes prior, it's like Obito's character. Then a character named Toby pops up, has a similar personality, and has a similar name. But we're expected to. Yeah, we all knew who it was prior. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is Madara. It's like, fuck it, I really don't care. And the characterization shown in the past is looking like the modern Madara that we see in the story. So it's like, why do you look so different? It's like, they don't give a reason. And the reasoning that they give, we don't make sense. But the issue with it stems is, hey, remember this guy Nagato? It's apparently Madara's eyes. Despite the scene in the manga and the anime showing him getting pissed. It's like, oh yeah, you killed my parents, that's why I unlocked this. And that made sense. That's kind of the reasoning that made sense, right? It was a borderline ability that he had, and he just unlocked it upon having that trauma, right? Which I kind of just thought was like a kind of a Sharingan type of shit, but for the Uzumaki. But no, it's not. It's not that. It's just some thing Madara gave him, even though it makes zero sense in time, skill, and anything. There's 0 point in time where that possibly could have happened. But okay. Makes zero sense nonetheless. It doesn't make zero sense anyways. But what the fuck do I know? And just another point that people don't like to bring up is the fact that the whole kind of series is precedented on this guy existing in story. As even in the beginning, the Ninetales was kind of like, oh yeah, he attacked the village. We get context to that later. It doesn't contradict anything. The difference between a contradictory retcon and another retcon was, actually no, a retcon is just something, kind of a small plot hole. That's what it is. By definition, just a plot hole that they don't want to call a plot hole. You're retconning. You're retroactively changing the story to change what you're trying to tell. So it's not really a plot hole. You know the thing's different, but you're just trying to make an excuse as to why it's shown different. You're acknowledging the plot hole, but you're trying to make it seem like it's not. That's what it is. You're like, it's this, but I'm gonna kind of lie, make it seem like it isn't. And also, just on the topic of like eyes and shit, Itachi's like, oh yeah, I kind of made you want to kill me because your eyes will like be evil once you try to, and I will steal your eyes and get the internal Mangekyo, which pretty much means his internal powers, which made more sense. That motive made more sense, and it made a lot more sense, but they changed it like they changed his motive and characterization mid fucking panel. I swear, they changed it mid fucking panel. Like, he just like, oh man, I don't want to rewrite this, but I swear it's mid thought. Like, he just changed it right on the spot. He didn't have any planning to why. People like to say it had planning. It didn't. It was mid fucking panel. Mid fucking, like, panel. Not even like mid chapter. Maybe mid, what's not chapter? Mid volume, maybe even. But it was mid panel. Like one page to another. He's like, I'm just going to change it mid page. The motive. And it makes zero sense. I debated people who said, "Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense." Cause da 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 da. It makes zero sense. They had to retroactively add so much shit for it to make even the slightest bit of fucking sense, and they had to hurt a lot of characters' backstories to even do that. Donzo was pretty much made as the excuse to pretty much everything that didn't make sense. Donzo was that excuse. Donzo was like, "Oh yeah, why is Itachi like a good guy? Oh yeah, Donzo. Why does this happen? Why is this the way it is? Donzo. Donzo's like the excuse character, as was Hashirama. Oh yeah, why can't he use this when everyone else went blind? Yeah, Hashirama. That's what we call plot devices. Cough, cough, Dragon Ball. Oh yeah, if all of everyone died. Dragon Ball. And also, on top of that, that deletes all tension too. Oh yeah, everyone's gonna die. Oh wait, yeah, what's that mean? We could just revive them with the Dragon Balls. But they died. Yeah, and Dragon Balls. Just like, yeah, even this thing is even in the kind of like a joke version, which isn't really the real version. It is literally kind of said, it's like, yeah, it's a joke because they could just get revived any moment. And it's sad when like everyone who knows about this literally agrees. It's like, yeah, you can just revive them. There's no actual not trauma, but there's no stakes at that too. It's not even that. It's just there's zero stakes in it when you know. Oh yeah, you could just revive them. Especially there's the same thing in Naruto. Yeah, someone dies, Sasuke could just use the fucking rebirth jutsu and just revive all of them. Like the eye rebirth jutsu. Doesn't that just kind of eliminate all tension too? Yeah, it does. Because they have these things which are plot devices that they don't eliminate, but they keep on because they need a plot device to continue things. Because they can't have actual stakes or anything happen of actual kind of not value, but they can't have actual stakes. They had this with Super. Infinity War. Everyone died in Infinity War, right? And then in Endgame, they're like, no one died. Because we changed our minds and it can't actually have stakes, because stakes are bad. Fuck stakes, am I right? I guess this is just kind of my rant on Naruto. This is Bub74H, the alt-white millennial, signing off.